turn to Tim Brick, and then James McQuarrie, and then Ken Villars.
Good morning. I'm Tim Brick, and I represent the Arroyo Seco Foundation. And you know, the reason I'm reminded of the real estate adage: location, location, location. We're not against archery. Isn't it wonderful, the great things that people can learn from archery? And I did too when I was young. We're talking about the location where it is, and I find it fascinating that people might go back to the Lower Arroyo Master Plan, which actually has some conflicting language on this because it doesn't talk about expanding archery. But let's go back to the Arroyo Seco Public Lands Ordinance, which you know because of its restrictions on Rose Bowl use, and everybody takes that very seriously. But do you know what that says about the Lower Arroyo? It calls it a natural preservation area. As a matter of fact, this is the only designated natural restoration area, preservation area in Pasadena. Now, we heard that in the early 90s, and so we went to the Browning Ferris Industries and created a partnership with the city of Pasadena. Browning Ferris Industries came in and restored that area, spent $5 to $7 million to do so. We didn't do that for an expansion of archery in that area. As a matter of fact, the Arroyo Seco Public Lands Ordinance says that archery can continue, but it also says it should not expand. That was 1991. Well, obviously, as is proven tonight, there's been a tremendous expansion of archery activity. They proved it. You know, we didn't have to ask them to come and do that. They proved it. Tremendous expansion. And that really requires that you do some environmental clearance on that as well. But also go back to the ordinance and see what the ordinance says, because the ordinance says, and you know, Mr. Beck, the ordinance says that there should be no expansion of this kind of active recreational activity in the Lower Arroyo. That's still the ordinance today. That's what Mr. Beck wants to change in number 2. I'm against number 2, to amend the municipal code to give authorize the city manager to determine where archery is permitted. I'm against all 4 of these, because you know why? Because I'm for restoring the Arroyo Seco. And that has a long history that we haven't heard about tonight. We haven't heard anybody talking about the stream in the Arroyo. We haven't heard anybody talking about restoring the Arroyo tonight. And it would be very sad if the city, if this is what the city is going to do to a natural preservation area, is to clutter it with the rocks and trails and all of the bales and all of the junk. Nobody can take Pasadena's commitment seriously to environmental stewardship if this is what you do to a natural
Jim, can I just,
restoration area.
And I don't think it's necessary to attack Mr. Beck on this. I think he's trying to balance all of the interests here, which is his job. But my question for you is, don't we actually have an opportunity that perhaps we could be more energetic about?
Well, we certainly do. The Corps of Engineers has been studying this area for a long time, and they've announced recently that in the next year or 2, they're going to define projects in the Arroyo Seco, and this is one of the main areas that they're studying. So there's a tremendous opportunity to bring in federal support for restoration of this area, which really, you know, if we go back and go through the history, has really been the policy of this city for 30 years, but it seems to have been forgotten by our staff.
Thank you.